Good day. It is great to be with everybody. And Paul and I have reverted to an old format that we've had to use a few times on our podcast, and we are back in the Zoom world. So, Paul, uh, welcome back to Zoom.
Man, this is a blast from the past. We haven't had to do this in a while, but you're so busy, man. I can't even get on your schedule to be in person with you. I don't even. How did you get that important?
I'm not that busy. I'm just ignoring you. I'll move this right here so I don't have to look
Okay,
at the
fine.
board in the background.
No,
It does
I
feel
hear
like
you've
that
been
time of
dealing
year
with
where,
a. I hear you're dealing. Your wife got hurt, and you've been having to actually be a husband and a dad.
yeah, fortunately, Marcy, last Monday, missed the bottom step coming down the stairs and broke a bone in her foot. So she's just kind of no weight bearing for several weeks. So we are living in a new reality of me having to do more than I'm comfortable with doing.
I bet they are all terribly uncomfortable with that. The fact that you're probably having to pull your weight around the house. That's scary.
Yeah. So if I show up on one of these podcasts and my clothes are a different color than they should be, you'll know I've done the laundry.
Yeah, that's scary stuff.
So it's I think one of the things I'm very grateful for is my wife. And
Amen.
and sometimes it takes moments like this to realize just how grateful we are for things. Because she does a lot for our family, and a lot of that is being a taxi driver for the kids, getting them to all their appointments and practices and all of that. And now that it's very difficult for her to get in and out of the house and difficult for her to get in a car, it changes the whole schedule very much.
Well, speaking of gratitude, Steve, that is our subject for the week, and let's talk a little bit about gratitude. I hear what you're saying. Sometimes we don't appreciate the things that we have until there's a change to them. And you certainly learned to appreciate Marcy more now through this. But as we talk about gratitude, tell me some things that you're grateful for, and I got a few things I'm grateful for as well.
Well, I am grateful for you. You're a very good friend, and I appreciate the ways that our friendship has grown over the years and the ways that you've been there for me when I needed some advice and direction. And hopefully, I've been able to be there for you at times as well.
Without question, I think one of the great things great blessings of my life is that there has been a pretty tight circle of friends that have been journeying together in ministry. And I don't, I know other people can understand your situation, but nobody understands it fully until you're doing it. And like being pastors together, we've learned a lot from each other, and I am truly grateful for you,
Yeah,
my friend.
and we've been through serving on the board of ministry together. We've been in the Reynolds Lead Academy together, so we've had a lot of common experiences that help our connection be that much stronger. And as you said, we've developed a circle of friends. I've got really tremendous friends who are fellow clergy, and I have a strong group of non-clergy friends too. So extremely grateful for those relationships.
Yeah. Yeah. So as we kind of think about gratitude, in addition to obviously I'm grateful for my family, my especially my wife Tammy. I don't even can't even begin to list the ways that she blesses my life. Most of you know, my first wife Susan passed away in 2008. Tam and I met, and we finally married in early 2014, and immediately she inherited three daughters. She inherited a mother-in-law. She inherited a grandson shortly thereafter. And she has been such an incredible wife, daughter-in-law for my mom. She's been a Mimi to our grandchildren now. And man, I can't go very far without giving thanks to God for her. Have those three daughters that I'm absolutely still crazy about: Caroline, Elizabeth, Mary Catherine. Their three husbands now, and those four grandkids. I'm telling you that the saying is true: don't kill your children when you sometimes feel like it, because you might get grandchildren. That is a true statement.
Well, I'm not quite at that same place in life. I have a 19-year-old daughter, Elizabeth, and a 15-year-old daughter, Maggie, and very grateful for both of them. It's being a dad is just one of the best things ever. And I just cherish my daughters so much. And I have great in-laws. I have good parents. And I have a large extended family with brothers and sister-in-laws and nieces and nephews and great nieces and great nephews now. So I think sometimes it's easy for us to get so bogged down in the tyranny of the now. It's a phrase I used yesterday in a sermon, that we forget to have the right perspective on life. And when we are just assaulted by busyness and sometimes stress and sometimes very real challenges, it can be very hard to be thankful. And so it takes some perspective and intentionality.
Yeah. So as we talk about gratitude today and we think about all of the various things that we're grateful for, family, houses, cars, health is a huge thing for which to be grateful for. Steve, where does gratitude come from? Is it natural? Do we just born with this innate sense of being grateful for something?
That's a good question. I would like to think we are, but I don't think that's how it works. I think we have to learn gratitude because when we first come into this world, we are very self-centered. That's how babies are designed. Their only function is to survive. And so gratitude in that respect, I think, has to be learned behavior.
I think it is very much a learned behavior. I think about the times when, as a little child, I remember with the girls trying to, okay, you just received a present from somebody. What do you say? What do you say? And they look at you like, what? What am I supposed to say? You say thank you. So absolutely. I think it's one of those things that we have to teach our children. But I think at first we might learn to say it, but it takes even one more step to learn to really mean it. When did you do you remember a story or a time when you first realized that you were truly grateful for something?
I don't know if there was any like watershed moment. All right. I think it just, of course, as that was one of those things that in our family we always said grace, or we didn't call it that. It was we either said the blessing or we gave thanks. And so that's another way of understanding that. So to give thanks at the dinner table, to be engaged in that. So that's, I guess it's a slow accumulation of things in that regard. How about you?
Well, so the story that I kind of remember that was kind of taught me a little bit about gratitude is when I was approaching my 16th birthday, and I was going to get a car. My parents were pretty, hey, oh yeah, when you turn 16, we'll get you a car. And I remember looking in for Camaros and Trans Ams. Those were the big cars at the time, thinking, man, this is going to be great. I am going to come driving up in one really fine car, and I'm going to be the stuff.
Yeah.
My parents said, yep, we're going to get you a car when you get 16. So it came time I turned 16, and my parents said, okay, we're going to go get you this car. And we drove over to a friend of theirs house, and sitting in their driveway was a 1976 Chevrolet Chevette.
So you got a Vet for your first car.
So I did get a Vet, but it was not a Corvette. It was a Chevette.
I remember.
And I like to tell people it was 0 to 60 in about 10 minutes. It was 5-speed, it was slow, and it might still be the ugliest car I have ever seen in my life.
Well, and those things, I remember they have like maybe 100 horsepower.
Yeah, that was going downhill, and that was, we were all in the back pushing. It was not a fast car.
So how did
And,
you
and
respond to that as a 16-year-old
so
who had
as a
aspirations to
16-year-old,
be
I
Burt
am
Reynolds?
with bad experience, bad attitude. And I thought, man, I'm going to go driving up and I'm going to get laughed at school. And so the process then begins. My parents said, okay, here's the deal. If you take this car and you appreciate this car, you take care of it, you show that you have the maturity to take care of it. We'll think about getting you something else down the road. And that my parents, I look back now, they were so smart. And I at the time thought they were so dumb, as we all kids at some point, I think you think your parents are just totally out of touch. But my parents were so smart. They knew better than to get me something that was fast, because I'd have killed myself in it. And I did learn to take care of that car and appreciate that car. And later they got me a Toyota Celica as I got ready to graduate high school. And that car served me for the next 10, 11, 12 years, which I learned to appreciate. But all of that, I look back now, I think it's something that gratitude is not something that comes particularly natural. You have to look at something, you have to be taught. And my mom and stepdad, Tom, really did teach me a great lesson about gratitude and how to receive a gift and how to appreciate that gift. And grateful for them.
Well, and I think of in terms of situational awareness, in that most of us aren't aware of just how good our situation is. And one of the things I've done that came easily to me was the ability to read. So I've always been a reader, and I've enjoyed. Well, I read all types of books, but I remember reading one of the first novels as a young, I don't know, 11, 12-year-old, The Grapes of Wrath, John Steinbeck. And if you read that book, which deals with the Great Depression, it deals with the Dust Bowl in Oklahoma and the struggles that folks went through just to live. After reading that book, I was much more grateful, because it details the Joad family who have to leave Oklahoma and migrate to California to hope to find any work. It details just how difficult it was to get a meal, and how their struggle was real and epic just to get through the day. And after reading that book, I remember going, I don't have anything to complain about. Now, I've got a bed to sleep in. Yeah, I share a room with my brother, but we've got a room that just he and I live in. We have indoor plumbing. We have food in the pantry. It may not be the food I necessarily want, but it's food. I've never known what it feels like to go hungry. So I think that part of our gratitude can be looking and seeing and empathizing with other people.
Well, I think as we approach the Thanksgiving Day, there's this idea that if we don't believe in a good, a benevolent, a kind, gracious God, Thanksgiving Day is it's pretty meaningless, isn't it?
Yeah.
If we actually are sitting down at the table and thanking ourselves for the hard work we've done and the ways that we've been able to make all of this work and get the food around the table and provided for ourselves. Well, Thanksgiving is a pretty meaningless day, but thankfully, realistically, we realize that all of us have been so richly blessed by God, with family, with people who made the way before us, that Thanksgiving meal tastes even sweeter when you recognize, man, this is all a blessing from a good and gracious God.
Right. And I'd say, if you need to, I would recommend, if you're struggling being thankful, read The Grapes of Wrath.
Oh, good.
Another great book that deals with what real poverty looks like is Angela's Ashes by Frank McCourt. There's so many, again, it just takes you into other people's worlds, and does call for responsibility and response. So, but you won't look at your own surroundings the same. So
maybe tomorrow we'll take a look at some couple of biblical stories that we're going to be using as we get towards Sunday. Stories in the Bible about gratitude. There are many of them, and we'll focus on a couple over the next couple of days.
So thank you for being with us. And as we head into the weekend, again, we're going to be taking a look at some scripture, and we'll see you tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us.